everyone. My name is Pat. I'm a PhD student at MIT Media Lab from Thailand. Thank you. Thank you very much. The first time I encountered the Media Lab was when I was in high school. If it's not obvious from this Stegosaurus-inspired dress, I'm a kind of kid that loves dinosaur. But it's not just about regular dinosaur. For me, it's about the cyborg dinosaur. The idea of combining bio and digital together has been the source of my inspiration. And that actually have been the guiding inspiration for my work at MIT Media Lab for my PhD as well. It's about bio becoming digital, the idea of cyborg, and digital becoming biology, the idea of virtual human. What I mean by this is that for the idea of biodigital interface, I work on projects that use programmable biodigital system to allow astronauts to be able to produce medicine actually on the astronaut body itself. And this is actually me testing the device in the zero gravity. Recently, I also work on projects that use the biodigital system to actually recycle material in space. This project actually recently launched, very exciting. It's actually now in orbit in the International Space Station, where we are using bacteria to transform waste into new material for astronauts to use. On the other hand, my work is also about how do we digitize biological system into a digital platform. As you can see here, this is an AI clone version of me, not just one version, but one version from the past, the present, and the future. And I don't just create an AI version of me, I also create an AI version of Media Lab professor as well. This is a Professor Joe Paradiso, who's now a virtual clone. But even though my work now is very exciting and it's in the Media Lab style, combining different disciplines together, my exposure to the Media Lab was way before that. It started with this yellow brick, the Lego Mindstorm brick. I don't know if any of you know this Lego Mindstorm. Yep. Great. It's not just a regular brick. It's a Lego brick that allows kids to actually program this kind of system to do multiple things. You can make a robot, you can make different kind of things, and for me, of course, the dinosaur. This idea was actually inspired and created at the MIT Media Lab. It's one of the greatest spin-off in collaboration with Lego, based on Professor Seymour Papert, who actually had visited Thailand many years ago. The idea of this brick is very powerful for me because it's my first step to be able to realize my vision of having biodigital system together. You have this Lego brick, then you can make anything. This idea of empowering people through technology, unlocking new possibility, this is the spirit of the Media Lab, right? And speaking of that idea, unlocking the possibility, we have elephant-sized possibility here beyond the elephant in the room. Our elephant, the one that you might have seen around the venue, has 3 layers of meaning. The first layer is that the elephant is actually the symbol of Southeast Asia. It's a symbol of symbiosis. You can look at the prosperity, as you can see the elephant here, but it's also the symbol of strength. When Alexander the Great came to Asia, he was actually ambushed by the Indian elephant, right? And that keep Asia intact. So the strength and prosperity are the symbol of Asia and are represented in the elephant. The second important idea here is that we're talking about the elephant in the room, the problems and the challenge that have been ignored. Right here, we have a giant elephant. We have different aspects of these. We have elephant of the metaverse. We have elephant of AI. We have elephant in space. These are big issues that are facing today's society. So we cannot ignore this elephant in the room anymore. The third layer of meaning, probably the most important one, is that if you look at the picture of elephant, this actually was taken yesterday with the Media Lab family when we were in Thailand. It's actually at Wat Arun. One thing that you see in the picture with elephant, not just this one and this one as well, is the people. Elephants are always in relationship with people. It's the symbiosis between human and elephant that matter. So when we look at this kind of picture where we see different technology, advanced technology, we should not just think about the advancement of technology itself, but we should think about where is the human in this elephant. Should the human be here, where we are stepped by the elephant, crushed by the elephant? Or should we be here, where we are actually left behind by technology? This is not in the Media Lab spirit. We believe in people, and the work that we do is not about technology. It's about how do we empower people so that we can let's go and explore space and beyond, right? As you look at the project around the Media Lab in the exhibition and all the presentation here, you will see this spirit of thinking about people first. and asking how might we invent the future that we want to live in. If that future requires technology, then we go and build technology. But it's not the technology first, it's about the human first. That's the important thing that we want to do. We want this kind of picture where we are empowered by the elephant, not this or this, right? Yeah. And speaking of the elephant, right? Elephant is huge. We cannot tame the elephant alone. We have a great team of organizing, a team that have put this event together. I want to actually call them by their name because we really believe in people. I want to thank Phi Krating. Phi Krating is over there. Phi Natut, Phi Bay, Phi Fern, Phi Tat Pong, Phi Sarampon, Dr. Gopsak, Phi Suragit, Phi Parut, Phi Nam, Phi Kathy, Phi Mimi, Dr. Gandhi is here, Phi Jok, Phi View, and Phi Singh. These are the people that help us bring the elephant of the Media Lab here. They represent several exciting companies: KBTG, Bangkok Bank, MIT Alumni Association, MQTC, True, Taicom, SCG, Mita, and TechSauce. These are the people that you should thank for bringing this event to Thailand. I counted, they spent over 30 hours actually on Zoom call with us in Cambridge to bring this event to the fruition. Another person that we need to thank is this one, Mireille. You're the most important person that make this event possible. Thank you so much, Mireille. If you don't know, Mireille is the director of member relations at MIT Media Lab. She's amazing, she's wonderful. Please say hi to her. And we also, was lucky to also receive the opening music from another Media Lab alumni, your boy Hanoi, who's actually working with Hiroshi Ishii. He generated the opening music that you just heard using AI, actually. And this project won the AI Song Contest of 2022, using Thai music combined with AI and produced that wonderful sound. So thank you, P. Hanoi, very much. Finally, before I go here, I want to mention that the reason I'm here at MIT Media Lab was because this person, Professor Patty Mars. I saw her TED Talk when I was in high school, and this is my reaction to it. It was in awe, it was magical. Patty was presenting this amazing technology where you can actually turn any surface into touchscreen. This is even beyond augmented reality where you wear glasses. This is, projection on any surface. It was magical. My feeling, that's what I was when I was in high school. But at the time, the Media Lab felt very far away. If you're in Thailand, you need to go half of the world to the Media Lab. It's very far away. It seems unreachable, seems impossible. Nonetheless, the magic of Patty, the magic of the Media Lab, spread across the world and inspired me. So when I applied to the Media Lab, I actually said that, I'm from a small town in Thailand, and I have a big dream, a magical dream. And one of that dream is to be able to bring the magic of the Media Lab to my community, my country. And now I'm happy that we can actually do it here in Thailand, in Bangkok, for the first time, where we can actually bring the Media Lab from Boston all the way to Bangkok in the first MIT Media Lab Southeast Asia Forum. It's like a dream come true. Thank you. Thank you so much. Despite the fact that we are getting closer to the holiday, we have all the amazing speakers all the way from MIT Media Lab here with us. So everyone, please stand up. The Media Lab speaker, they are here with us. Thank you. And also Professor Dava Newman, the director of the Media Lab, she's preparing for her talk. She's amazing. Thank you, Dava, for the kind support. Thank you, Dava. Not yet. Not yet, Dava. Sorry. I have one more thing left. The thing that brings me to the Media Lab is this crazy idea of cyborg dinosaurs, something that captured my childhood imagination. I had a chance to actually look at the painting that I paint many years when I was really young here. This is when I was 9 years old. I paint, the picture of, people in Thailand in space and dinosaur and technology coming together. It was a crazy idea, right? Like, yeah, it's very childish, it's crazy and weird. But who would think that 17 years later, my experiment is actually up there in space, orbiting the Earth right now? It's crazy. Yeah, and it's looking at this, it reminds me that, no matter where you come from, how big your dream is, everything is possible. And I want to thank my parents for supporting my crazy dreams. My parents over there. Thank you so much. And with that, let's ride the elephant and invent the future. Thank you very much. And with that, I would like to welcome Professor Dawat Newman, the director of MIT Media Lab.
That was so awesome.
Thank you so much. Oh, you all yeah.
Hello, everyone. It is such a pleasure to welcome you all from the Media Lab to the Southeast Asia Forum and to share with you what's beyond that room with the elephant. Thank you so much, Pat, for this great introduction. So I'm so glad to be with you all today. For almost 40 years, the MIT Media Lab has ventured beyond traditional and academic cultural boundaries to encourage the most unconventional mixing and matching in seemingly disparate research areas. But we thrive on the synergies that take advantage of our complementary differences. So we have computer scientists and engineers who work together with musicians who work next to biologists who in turn collaborate with architects, designers, and folks like myself who look beyond the universe to search for life. Our approach has resulted in a radically diverse list of accomplishments. They range from smart prosthetics, human version 2.0, to symphonies written for and by entire cities, and a new programmable language, Scratch, serving over 100 million kids around the world. We've created experimental research areas such as wearable computing, computational social science, tangible interfaces, and effective computing. It's always about the people. It's not about the technology. It's always about the people and lifting everyone up to realize the technological advantages. This forum is really a great opportunity for us to meet all of you, to collaborate with like-minded people, organizations, and extend the Media Lab's vision to create transformative technologies, experiences, and systems that enable people to reimagine and for all of us to redesign our lives. We really want to engage with all of you here in Bangkok, Thailand, Southeast Asia, in very meaningful, creative experiences that integrate the art, science, engineering, and design to transform people's dreams and ideas into reality. That's why we're here today, to interact with all of you over the next couple days. There is just a world of opportunity in Bangkok, given the recent growth and investment in digital infrastructure, advanced technologies, and this innovation corridor, both from the government and from industry. Position Thailand and all of Southeast Asia, the growing global hub of innovation. The pace of digital transformation is truly incredible. With Thailand 4.0, and the construction of the Eastern Economic Corridor, Bangkok is now the leader in 5G Southeast Asia. Throughout the entire COVID pandemic, the region's innovative efforts in digital health and wellness, digital education have really been phenomenal. Over the next 2 days, we really want to introduce you. It's our opportunity from the Media Lab to engage with the region's thriving and rapidly growing innovation ecosystem. We see so much potential, not only to expand our mission and our vision beyond the United States, but also to learn from all of you. We're here listening, learning from you, the people, the organizations that are creating impact throughout Southeast Asia and more globally around the world. We'll have opportunities for conversations and to talk to each other in very unlikely ways, to just relax, bringing our brightest faculty. We have over a dozen faculty and researchers here to consider new creative ways to think about how we can work together to make our lives and our global society healthier, safer, and more just for all in the future. So once again, I'd like to give my heartfelt thanks to the amazing sponsors who've made it possible for us to join you here over the next couple days. So with that, our welcome from the MIT Media Lab, and we can't wait to explore the entire universe with you all. Thank you. I'm going My pleasure to hand over the mic to my colleague, Professor Mitch Resnick, the developer of Scratch. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. A lot of times, when people think about the MIT Media Lab, they think about the incredible technological innovations that have come out of the Media Lab. And indeed, there have been incredible innovations over the last 40 years. It was at the Media Lab that e-ink was invented, that became the basis for e-readers. The world's leading prosthetic devices came out of the Media Lab from Uher's lab. There's work on new types of urban transportation, like a city car, to try to solve some of the types of traffic problems we see in places here like in Bangkok. Some of the most innovative wearable health technologies from the Media Lab to be able to inform you when there's health issues efficiently and ahead of other ways. As mentioned before, Lego Mindstorms came from the Media Lab, the first robotics kit for a wide range of people. And Scratch, the first programming language that really opened up to millions and millions of children around the world. But I don't think that this captures what's most important about the Media Lab. The Media Lab's most important contributions are not the technological innovations, I think, but rather the culture of creativity and innovation at the Media Lab that led to these inventions. That's the real contribution, and what we want to be able to share with our partners around the world. I think at the Media Lab, it's been a place that creates a fertile environment that enables these types of innovations to bloom and to thrive. To give you a sense of it, let me show you a short video clip. This video clip is made by one of our member companies, the Lego company. It was a member from 1985 at the very beginning of the Media Lab. And at the 30-year anniversary in 2015, they made a video celebrating the anniversary. So there's a video clip here that gives you some snapshots from around the Media Lab.
The MIT Media Lab has 25 different research groups doing all different types of creative, innovative work.
In my work, I combine arts and crafts with electronics to create artistic, expressive pieces.
The Cityscope platform was developed to allow people to engage with urban planning.
This is the first device ever to make it easier for people to walk.
The researchers and students here at the Media Lab, they're constantly experimenting, trying new things, building complex structures from simpler parts. They're doing it in a Lego spirit.
I think even just from those short clips, you get a sense of the spirit of the Media Lab that leads to the type of culture of creativity that I'm talking about. The Media Lab is organized. Usually if you think of a university, you might think of classrooms and auditoriums, but that's not the way the Media Lab is organized. It's more like an inventor's workshop and an artist's studio brought together, where people can work together, share ideas, collaborate, have ideas spread from one to another. And I think that's sort of the key to the Media Lab, finding those right ways to nurture and spark innovation. We sometimes talk about the approach of the Media Lab in terms of 4 guiding principles that we call the 4 Ps of creative learning: projects, passion, peers, and play. The Media Lab is organized to support students and researchers working on projects based on their passions in collaboration with peers in a playful spirit. So as you look around the Media Lab, you're constantly seeing all the different ways that students work on projects. They work on things they really care about. We've seen over and over that people are willing to work longer and harder and persist in the face of challenges and make deeper connections with ideas if they work on things they really deeply care about. And learning and creativity do not come from just an individual working by themselves. It's with peers and through collaboration, sharing with one another, learning from one another. And it's done in a playful spirit. And that doesn't mean just laughing and having fun. When we talk about a playful approach at the Media Lab, it's about providing the opportunity to take risks, to experiment, and to try new things. Because the most important creativity and innovation comes when you're willing to try new things and take risks. So that's the playful approach that we take at the Media Lab to make sure that happens. But of course, to us, it's very important that this type of creativity should not just happen inside the walls of the Media Lab. So a big part of what we do is also to make sure that these ideas get supported around the world. And that's why I was so excited when I found out that this forum was going to be here in Thailand. But there's a great example here in Thailand where the Media Lab has had a long history of connection with Thailand. So 25 years ago, in 1997, the Media Lab started an initiative here. It was headed up by Media Lab founding faculty member Seymour Papert, that Pat mentioned earlier. So Seymour came starting in 1997 in collaboration with the foundation here, the Saksa Patana Foundation, that was looking at how to rethink educational approaches, and they were inspired by Seymour's educational approach that he called constructionism. And Seymour's approach was trying to move against the traditional educational approach of delivering instruction and delivering information, but rather supporting young people learning through designing, creating, experimenting, and exploring things they cared about to solve real-world problems. And through that work, it sort of caught on and sort of planted the seeds for activities here. Let me mention one of the early projects, right, on that first project. So this back in the year 2000, one of this graduate students in the Media Lab who was from Thailand, Roger C.P. Kiat, was working in a rural village in Thailand. And he worked with a girl whose family had a fish farm, as you see here. And the girl explained that one of her jobs was that she had to walk out to the fish farm every evening to turn on this ultraviolet light to attract insects for feeding the fish, and then turn it off the next day. And she realized from the workshop she was taking that there might be a different way she could do that. She used the same Mindstorms brick that Pat was using to control dinosaurs. She used it to control the fish farm lighting. So you can see here, she was putting it together. That's Roger sitting there, showing them about using Mindstorms. And this 14-year-old girl programmed a Mindstorms to control a relay to turn on and off the lamp based on what a light sensor would say that the sun was going down. So that way, she had less work to do. She didn't have to walk several kilometers several times a day to turn the light on and off. But also, she was learning about technical skills, but also learning that she could take charge of her own learning, that she could make a difference in the world to solve real-world problems if she just sort of used new ideas and new technologies to make that happen. Actually, there's the hookup that she had with the Mindstorms brick up there in there. From this, there was also more innovations that came from it. Roger, from working on this, realized there was real need for a low-cost controller to allow everybody to be able to control motors and get information from sensors. So with another graduate student, he developed a go-go board. And this sign he's continued to work on. He's now a professor here in Thailand. He continues to develop this, add new innovations to it. All of the engineering students at his university are using this board. It's used across the world. So there's this ripple effect of how the innovations from the Media Lab can spread out to many other people. And there are many other things, seeds that were planted then that continue to grow. There was a new school that was started in 2001 as part of this, the Darun Sikayali School of Innovative Learning. So here you see from the early days some of the students who are getting involved with some of this new technology, but more important, getting involved with this new approach to education and learning. And in fact, in the picture in the upper right, you see Tukta, one of the educators who was there from the beginning working with Seymour and is still one of the leaders at the school that continues an ongoing thread of continuing to innovate this constructionist approach in different ways. Through the years, they've added a fab lab in order for young people to use technology to fabricate physical materials. But again, the most important thing are not the new technologies that children learn, but this approach to education learning that changes the way that they think about the world and the way they think about themselves. As I've talked to people about the constructionism approach here in Thailand, we've heard that the biggest effect is that people start to realize that they can take control of their own learning to solve real-world problems. And it's not just happening in schools. There's now new social enterprises starting based on the constructionism ideas. So it's wonderful to see how these ideas flow back and forth from the collaboration between the Media Lab and organizations and educators and businesses here in Thailand. I think this is something that we'd like to plant new seeds now. It's wonderful to be here in Thailand to see the fruits of previous work, but how we can take it to a next level here in Thailand, but also across the whole region. So we at the Media Lab would love to find ways to work with all of you to share not just the technologies of the Media Lab, but also this culture of creativity from the Media Lab, because I think that's going to be the key to success for everyone in the future, for individuals, for communities, for companies, for countries as a whole. You know, the ability to think and act creatively will be what leads to success in today's fast-changing world. So we really look forward to using this conference as an opportunity to make more connections and to see how we can plant new seeds for the culture of creativity so we can nurture new innovations and new approaches to creativity and learning across the region. Thank you very much.
Thanks to all the speakers. Can we have another big round of applause, please, for all 3 speakers? Thank you so much for inspiring us from the very beginning of the forum. First of all, we're in Thailand. Sawadee ka. Welcome, everybody. Sawadee ka. Good morning, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. And also welcome all the speakers from MIT Media Lab to Thailand. Thank you for joining us. And also welcome all guests, ladies and gentlemen, to MIT Media Lab Southeast Asia Forum, Beyond the Elephant in the Room. I'm Elizabeth Sattler Lina Nuchai as your host. I'm very pleased to be here this morning. And also today, ladies and gentlemen, we are very honored to have so many world-class speakers, thought leaders who will be sharing with us their visionary thoughts, ideas, and the latest updates from MIT Media Lab. So I'm sure that you're very interesting in this forum, that firstly, we learn already about the spirit of MIT, right? Very, very inspiring. We've learned from the first 3 speakers about their passions from dinosaurs, and it leads to cyborg, right? Very inspiring. And also we've learned about so many previous works from the speakers at MIT Media Lab, their accomplishments, and I do believe that the playful approach that we learned from one of the speakers is a great environment that we should have for the future generation. You can see that the sky is the limit, so we can learn so much from today's forum, and I'm sure we can also work together and create something better for the world. So thank you all for getting up so early. Are you up for it? Yeah? Can we have a big round of applause? You all need to be acknowledged because it's very early. And that you're here with us, it means a lot. And again, tomorrow, the forum starts at 9, so we hope to see the familiar faces with us. We have so many sessions that will be going on today. I'm sure will inspire all of you. Maybe you can develop something more inspiring for yourself or for the people, for the community around you. So the first session today, we will learn more about experts being digital and digital beings. So I'm sure that we are almost ready to welcome our speakers in our first session, which are Kun Pattara Nuttaporn, who just inspired us at the very beginning, and also Professor Hiroshi Ishii, Professor Joseph Paradiso, and our moderator for the first session is Dr. Gandhi Leopairod. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming our first keynote speaker, Kun Pattara Nuttaporn.
Thank you. All right, I'm back. My slide, please. Great. The dinosaur is back. The first topic, the first elephant that we're going to tackle today is the topic of Xverse, or many of you might have thought of it as, metaverse. But in the Media Lab, we really like the idea of X as the cross boundary between the physical and the digital. And in this panel, we're going to hear, 3 researchers from the Media Lab that kind of tackle this topic in a different way. So for me, when we think about the Xverse, the cross reality, it's not just about the digital and the physical, it's also about the past and the future. As you know, I really love dinosaurs, so I love time machine. Imagine if you have a time machine, who would you like to talk to? For me, one of the greatest inventor and artists and scientists who really embody the Media Lab is Leonardo da Vinci. I've been a fan of him for so long, and he's like the pre-Media Lab researcher. Imagine if we can have a conversation with Da Vinci, what would that look like? Thanks to the power of generative AI, we can now make that possible.
Hello, I am an AI-generated living memory of Leonardo da Vinci, an Italian Renaissance polymath.
Yeah, this is all done because of the generative AI. We can ask Da Vinci, maybe one of his greatest inventions is the flying machine. Maybe we can ask him, what do you think about the flying machine?
The flying machine is a device that I designed to fly using the power of wings.
Yeah.
The wings are attached to a frame that the person sits in, and the frame has handles that control the movement of the wings.
Great, thank you, Da Vinci. This is not about bringing back the dead or achieving digital immortality, but rather it's about how do we create a living memory of someone, creating digital mementos that allow us to remember the person in a very interactive way. Many of you may have experienced the idea of generative conversational AI recently with ChatGPT and Auto Platform. The problem of those kind of systems is that it usually hallucinates new kind of information based on the thing that it has learned. So the innovation in this concept in this work is to combine knowledge extraction algorithm that, based on the historical artifact of Da Vinci, look at the most relevant information and then use the power of generative model to turn that into conversation. These allow us to have a trustworthy generative model that, you can refer back to the reference, allow you to learn history in a more interactive way. In this case, what we train or create the model from is we use the first source, like the original notebook from Da Vinci, and also the secondary source, which is the thing that people have written about Da Vinci. And at the Media Lab member event recently, we actually had this installation where people come and talk to the virtual Da Vinci. This researcher from IDEO actually came and asked if Da Vinci want to go on a date with her. Da Vinci politely say no. But we want to keep it accurate. Da Vinci is dead. He cannot go on a date, right? One thing that is very fascinating to us, as we mentioned earlier, that the technology itself is really cool, it's really fun, but it's all about people. We want to see how this idea of living memory can improve the way that we learn about history. So here, this is sort of the learning motivation, the level of curiosity, the effectiveness of learning when you read about Da Vinci from textbook. Here, this is what happened when you actually interact with Da Vinci, the AI Da Vinci. It's increased from just learning from the textbook. But the most effective way that we have seen is when you actually allow people to discover Da Vinci through reading, and then the people will know what kind of question, what kind of information to ask from Da Vinci. So it's the combination of the past and the future that lead to the most magical learning experience. When you learn to read, and get inspiration, and that increase your curiosity and motivation to actually talk to the virtual Da Vinci. Not just about Da Vinci, right? Maybe some of you may not like Da Vinci. We also think about ways that this AI can be very magical in a way that can make learning sort of more inspirational. We have been working on the idea of AI-generated characters, so not just an interactive one, but how do we create multiple characters, not just Da Vinci. All these characters that you see here, these are all generated with the pipeline that I just showed, where we combine different open source model that allow us to animate the historical image and allow us to bring these characters in a more interactive way. Even though this is very fun, we're actually very serious about it. We published our paper in Nature Machine Intelligence recently. But the magic of this is when you get to experience it yourself. Imagine if you can learn physics from Einstein himself. Now you can.
Today, we will learn about quantum mechanics.
Well, maybe you don't like Einstein. Maybe you like Mary Monroe, and you want to learn quantum physics from Mary Monroe. Now you can
Today,
also.
we will learn about quantum mechanics. It is the description of
Or maybe not Monroe, maybe Harry Potter. That's the real magic, right?
Today, we will learn about quantum mechanics. It is the description of the behavior of matter and light in all its details and, in particular, of the happenings on an atomic scale.
This is the idea of personalized learning, where you can learn anything from anyone. This platform allows us to rethink the way that we can make personalized content for children, especially during the pandemic, right? They are all learning from Zoom. We can now augment that by allowing the teacher to invite this virtual guest lecture to come in. We are not replacing the teacher because these characters are very not as interactive as human, but rather to augment the teacher, allow them to have Einstein as their guest lecture or Harry Potter as their guest lecture. We did an experiment to see what kind of motivation can this lead to. In this case, we look at a very controversial figure, Elon Musk. Many people like Elon Musk. Who like Elon Musk here? Not so much, not anymore. Interesting. Some people, like many of you, don't like him anymore, which is kind of great for us. Because now we can look at how the level of likeness and inspiration from the character translate to the virtual clone. So we create a character where both of them actually give the same lecture. A group of participants learn from the virtual Elon Musk, where the other group learn from the control, which is a person that we create from scratch. Yeah.
Hello. I am a virtual agent generated to help provide information. Today, I'd like to tell you about a type of vaccine.
Right, very timely, the topic is on the vaccine. Both groups are learning from virtual instructor. One is a controversial figure that some people like, some people don't like, and the other one is a character that had no association with the student. And what we found is that the more that people like and admire the real Elon Musk, that directly translated to the level of motivation that they have with the virtual character. So you can see sort of the ghost of the real character sort of translate to the AI of the virtual clone, which is really fascinating to us because you can think about opening up this possibility where children can select the teacher that they want to learn from, virtual teacher that they want to learn from. In a way, it's actually very similar to the Spirit House in Thailand, where we have like, the ghosts of the past everywhere with us. So people say that MIT alumni are Lan of Einstein. So we can make the shrine for Einstein, and
Today,
Einstein
we will
can teach
learn
us
about
quantum
mechanics.
Yeah.
It is the description.
Yeah. But the wonder of Time Machine is not about going into the past. It's also about going into the future. And one of the things that we explore is that, what happens when we can use this AI-generated character to turn inward. Imagine you can travel 30 years to the future and talk to your future self. What would that look like?
I am the present, the future, and the past.
These are AI-generated characters based on my own data. This is characterized as sort of the characteristic of technology of this era, where technology would know you better than you know yourself. This is from Professor Yuval Harari, who wrote the famous book Homo Deus, right? This project came about, as Mish mentioned, the idea of playful exploration. I watched Godzilla movie, with the three-headed dragon, and I was like, what would happen if human can augment ourselves with AI and become three-headed human, like this one? We call this project Machinoia to rhyme with Ghidorah, the three-headed dragon. And these are the different AI-generated version of me that is trained on my social media. Oops, maybe I should show a little more. They're cool. The different version of me that are trained on my social media data. It can sort of look at the sentiment of my conversation and sentiment of my social media posts over the year, and that allow the model to actually predict what would my future self react to different things or different topics. And you can see my younger self doesn't like research or like school or anything. My younger self was kind of picky, which is true. And you can walk around with this three-head human. It's like an exploration of what would happen when you are actually having this symbiosis with AI. And maybe before you make critical decision in the future, you may need to talk to different version of yourself. We assume, and maybe a more older version of me will tell me something, or the younger version of me will inspire me in a different way, right? This project also led to a collaboration, an artistic collaboration. Here at the Media Lab, we don't just make technology, we explore them artistically as well with Kavita, the artist, and the curator Papan Sirima. This actually was shown in Australia recently. And we also have a version here at Bangkok Art Biennale at the BACC as well. You can go and interact with the AI virtual clone of the artist. The art for the Media Lab is to sort of explore new frontier, ask critical questions for technology. Finally, the final project I want to mention is that we bring this into a more accessible form. Now, you don't need to carry the tree head to talk to the future self. Now, you can actually have a conversation with your future self. You can chat with the future self, actually. This is the future me as a Media Lab professor, which I hope to become. Thank you, Dava, for accepting me in the future. This project actually came about with a collaboration with our member company from Thailand, KBTG. Very exciting. We explore what happened, when people can actually have a real conversation with the future self in the future. That's kind of interesting, right? And this system, fine-tune language model based on personalized data. So unlike, a language model that you have interact with that is generic and answer question to anyone, here we make a specialized a model based on your input data. We ask you who you are, what do you want to become, and what kind of behavior you have. And the AI also take your own picture and make an older version of you. You can see an older version of myself. But the coolest thing about this is that in order for the AI to be realistic in giving the future conversation, it needs to have a synthetic memory of the future. Many of you might have watched Westworld, right, where they show that the AI can be realistic if it had a fake memory. Here, we take an information of you at the moment and generate the memory of you when you're 60 years old. If you say that you want to be a biology teacher, the AI would generate a memory of you when you're already a retired biology teacher, so that it can use this to generate realistic conversation. And this is example conversation that people have on our platform. As I said, the work that we do is all about human. It's not about just gimmick time machine. Psychologists have developed the idea of future self-continuity to measure how one can relate to their future self, which is positively related to mental health, decision-making, financial saving. So if you can imagine your future self more vividly or more strongly, you're more likely to have positive behavior toward the future. And we found that by having people interacting with our AI future self with over 200 participants, we found that this actually reduced decision anxiety and increased optimism for the future. People report that the AI was giving them authentic advice. They feel connected to the AI. They feel that the AI helped them reflect, which is really important in this era. And for people that really believe AI is realistic, it's even increasing author effect as well. This is the first paper that we published with KBTG, our member company. It's less than 6 months, and we are very excited to continue working with them. Yeah. When we think about this idea of metaverse or Xverse, I often think of the science fiction, right? In Ready Player One, the author said that people come to the metaverse or the oasis, not what they can do, but what they can become, what they can be. The idea of this hybrid reality, the Xverse, is not about the place. It's about the human experience. As you can see from these two projects, the one about learning from the past and another one about learning from the future, is that we are augmenting humans with virtual humans. We are not making virtual humans become real human. That's not our goal. But we want to use these virtual humans to allow us as a real biological human to be reflective, to be inspirational, to be thoughtful. And that's what we are here for. And again, I want to highlight that these two projects came from a collaboration with two member companies, the DaVinci one with NTT Data and the Future You with KBTG. We also have a demo of the Future You outside the exhibit as well, so please check it out. And if it's break, it's a demo. It's a prototype. It breaks when you test it. It doesn't break when we are actually working on it. So that's the joke, right? So with that, I will end by asking you this question. If you have a time machine, who would you like to talk to? Thank you very much. Thank you. With that, I will invite Professor Hiroshi Ishii, my mentor, to give a presentation.
Okay. Good morning. It's such a great pleasure and honor to meet future Pat in the audience. We are also so excited to be inspired by the future researchers who are so hungry for opportunity and also inventions. Can I get my slide? Okay, so today's topics is about beyond metaverse. And of course, we talk about the Xverse or crossverse because we can't go completely virtual. We have to really think about how to blend the between physical and also digital. But also recently, I had a great opportunity to go to a conference about metaverse. Dr. Zina, she's a material scientist, invited a lot of people who do quantum computing and also the graphene, all the materials, carbon nanotube, also me, to talk about what is made of the atoms, molecules, rather than go to virtual pixel, how to bring the world to the grounded onto the materials. So that's something quite inspiring. But main topics about the virtual, digital, physical is the kind of the direction. 1995, Nicolas Negroponte, he's a founder of MIT Media, published a very influential book called Being Digital. How many people read it? It's kind of Bible. He really stressed about the superiority of the digital over physical, analog. But 1995, I joined MIT. Then we published the first paper called Tangible Bits, talking about being tangible to go the opposite direction. So in a sense, a pendulum swimming between two worlds, real and virtual. Of course, Nicolas pushed to bits. Then I tried to make a counter movement to the tangible, or physical, analog. And, but also interesting to see that metaverse is another way to pushing a metaverse, go beyond the metaverse and also metaverse. So let's think about what metaverse means. For me, it's like yesterday's tomorrow. Fundamentally, it's not a new vision. Already we know those kind of the concept many, many years. It's a bit more dystopian context. So metaverse, loading. But what does it mean? Natural interaction. We know what's natural. Last evening, I have amazing dinners with all the colleagues, having a conversation and face-to-face, gaze awareness, handshaking. That's really natural. But once you go to the virtual world, how that can be really natural? Also, seamless is kind of illusion. World is balkanized by Amazon, Google, and Microsoft, and Apple, totally different platform. They're not really seamlessly compatible. And also, all the like, application, talking, drawing together, discussing, is a separate one. Making a seamless is almost impossible even this digital world. How can we do it in the metaverse? But maybe more bigger issue is something Pat talked, synthetic selves. And when I went to lecture about those metaverse people, they use two keywords, realistic and believable. But that's very scary because realistic means not a real, it's a fake. Second, believable also means deceivable. You can easily manipulate other people's. Because fundamentally, every digital is so easy to hack it, replace other stuff. So naivety about natural seamless avatar, and even like a Turing test of the virtual avatar really like makes me nervous. Of course, digital twin make perfect sense. You have like a windmill that having computer models, monitoring, analyzing, that makes sense. But the social metaverse has a very interesting issue. And last spring, we had a really great session in MIT Media Lab. I came up with this metaphor, deep sea divers. Would you like to go deep sea divers? But I much prefer to be a stroller along the seashore. So this is a Spanish painter, Sorolla's beautiful painting, and he painted lovely wife and the daughters strolling along the seashore, enjoying the breeze of the wind, breeze from sea, also picking up a beautiful seashell, then talking, but also having eye contact. It's so important. That's a nature, that's a beauty. So I want to be stroller rather than a deep sea diver. But still some people really want to go deep sea. So I did research. How many minutes can you really survive in the under the waters unless you're a fish or whale? Then it looks like a human can only spend 2 minutes and, unless you become a cyborg. So, but a lot of technology evolving. It's very interesting because all the like a new fashion appears. So finally, you know the new kind of a deep sea diver fashion. But is that the real direction or not? That's something we discuss a lot. That's the reason crossbars. Maybe it's not necessarily the perfect one, but how to really strike the balance is important. I found my really favorite immersive environment. One is this aquarium. It's so beautiful, so powerful. I can still talk to friends or kids, but the real fish is swimming. But another amazing stuff, immersive Frida Kahlo exhibition, also Van Gogh or Klimt. How many people went to the immersive exhibition? It's quite amazing, like pieces of the painting or photos, but they really interpret using all the amazing narrative story. Entire architectural space is a theater, and it's so beautiful. Then you can also engage, but still talking to your friends about, oh my gosh, that's so beautiful. And so I think those two really indicate the future possibility of the immersive 3D environment rather than go to HMD. Also, 30 years ago, I was doing a remote collaboration, 1992. This is called ClearBoard. That became beginning of the headhunting by Nicolas Negroponte to come to MIT, 1995. But I really care about the telepresence. This is really great, working and also eating together and also discussing together in the same places. But when you have to really go work remotely, you need some system. Now you can see ClearBoard. I'm talking to my colleague, but you can clearly see my gaze where I'm looking at. So that's something very important. Gaze is a non-verbal cue, but maybe people in Asia, I'm also from Japan, we really try to read subtle like a gaze cue to understand people's intention. So we invented this one like 30 years ago, but still Zoom, you don't have eye contact. I can see you, I can hear you, but where you are, fundamentally, you can't really believe the presence. So I think telepresence is something very important. If VR can really challenge to this one or metaverse, they have to really solve the problems. But I took a very different approach, tangible telepresence. Let me show the piece. So rather than making a pixel in a screen and a sound, we try to scan and re-embody the body over distance using this shape display. That's example of radical atoms. I talk more tomorrow in the material session. But you can clearly see that the people's body appears, then grasp those kind of balls. Also, you can use the instrument like this one to really change the shape of your hands to do something. Also, this machine to robot to pushing all the materials. Also, you can do the CAD. The also interesting stuff is 3D printing is often like a dead end. You print it, but it goes around the field. But here you can see still this stuff is moving, satisfying the constraint. It's alive computational stuff. So that's something we are very excited to pursue. But also combining this informal engine, we made a more bigger version called Transform. It's a kinetic, triptych of the kinetic stuff. Can you increase the volume? So the red ball is frozen atoms, plastic materials. But this white pin is a radical atoms. It's dynamic, physical, or computational. But these two generation materials dancing. So this is a way to create a new materials, but the computational, sensing and actuation. So that can be the replacement of the pixel-oriented world. So arts and sciences, Diva also talked about the importance of the cross-disciplinary approach. And arts and science, we are in a media arts and science department. So let me introduce the mirror fugue done by Dr. Xiao Xiao. She's a very accomplished pianist, but also hacker, computer scientist. So in her office, she had a Yamaha piano, also high-speed computers. But one day she saw her reflection on the piano. Then she came up with the idea, why can't I live in piano forever? So that's the reason that now key is moving based on the recorded one, actually the key. And the important thing, the music is not just sound, motion of the body, also breathing. Then we came up with a crazy idea. So this is a young Xiao Xiao, actually my daughter, Arisa, but she's playing the young Xiao Xiao. But then she grew up, but young Xiao Xiao still living in the piano. Then grown-up Xiao Xiao can play together, duet. So that's the beginning to think about a crazy new vision called teleabsence. If your grandma was a concert pianist, you can invite her in anniversary day to the grand piano in living room. Then she can play with the grandchildren or grandchildren. So starting from the career board, it's kind of endeavors. I'm really care about the vision. And we started seamless telepresence, like a career board. Oh my gosh, more than 30 years ago. Maybe some of you might not be born it. Then I was headhunted to MIT Media, but Nicolas said, you have to start something completely new. So I started Tangibits, but then it's evolved to radical atoms, dynamic dancing materials. But also I couldn't really give up the telepresence. It's such an important things to be connected. So I did a tangible telepresence. But then COVID-19 crisis hit. We can really meet, we can really dance, we can really eat together, but we can't do anything. So then many people died. So we came up like a new, most crazy ideas of teleabsence. So I want to hear my loved ones who are gone type her favorite poems in the midnight. Also, I want to do the duet. So I'd like to show some example. Basically, it's a telepresence after death. I know it's very crazy, but already part one, we are very crazy. And so I want to hear late Marvin Minsky play piano. Also, I want to do it. That's my genuine dream. But Marvin is in the piano. Already he was recorded. But the real Marvin, late Marvin Minsky, actually seeing himself and playing together. But now he's already gone. But we have a very important memory event in the Media Lab. So we brought a piano, and the people really cried. So this is our dream. How can we really keep remembering? So connected world, quite amazing internet, all the stuff being connected. But are we really connected? Maybe not. People are very lonely, depressed, isolated. Loneliness is a pandemic. And this planet is a very lonely planet. So how to really reconnect people or remembering is something so important for me. And there's a term called saudade. It's a Portuguese word. It's about the presence of absence. The desire for beloved thing or people made so painful by its absence. It's gone. You can't really go back to the time. You can't go to people. So that's something fundamental concept. So we just started teleabsence. Then also another important thing, people die twice. First, when they die. Second, when they are forgotten. This is very universal concept. Also Mexico, also Scotland, and many places. But this is something I'm driving very important because I do not want to be forgotten. Also, I don't want to keep remembering. So I think research that Pat presented is something very, very impactful. So thank you very much for your kind attention. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. Can you hear me? Sorry for being a little muffled. It's kind of nice that Hiroshi ended with that bit of Marvin Minsky playing the piano, because I've been talking to the Minsky family. They're old friends of many of us. And Marvin Minsky, in addition to being a great authority in AI, as you saw, would be a great piano improviser. And he recorded himself. He recorded days of recordings of him playing fugues on piano as well as synthesizer. So I'm starting a project with an undergraduate researcher and an RA next term to run an AI through these recordings so we can have Marvin Minsky playing and improvising his fugues forever. So Marvin always talked to some level of what AI is going to do in terms of keeping memories alive, as Hiroshi mentioned. And indeed, you'll be able to listen to Marvin improvising fugues anytime you want, I hope. So next term. This is a little bit different, although in the end, everything is somewhat virtual. I'm going to talk a bit about what I like to call the generalization of presence, because we're living in an era now where some of the big questions about human identity are up on the block because of the technology we're inventing. Where am I? I mean, I was going to be zooming in earlier today. I could have been in my hotel. I am physically here. It's great to see everybody. It's always better to be here. But this is all going to blur. Just wonderful to be with you guys. This is all going to blur because we can start tunneling into sensors in different ways. My group's been thinking about that now for a couple of decades. We'll show a few examples about that. And also identity. What's the nature of me? As I start to bleed out through social networks, who am I? As AI start integrating more with my precognitive life. Patty will talk a bit about that. I think Pat may have talked about it. So it's an intriguing time. Fundamental questions about us are really being asked and answered in the next years. So, I like to go to concerts. Some of you know this. I love music. I'm always going to some interesting show when I can. This is when I gave actually a keynote in Imperial College in their electrical engineering department. They had me give one of their main keynotes some years ago. I timed it for happening when a Hawkwind concert was going on at the Roundhouse, so I could catch this show with one of my favorite bands. It's an amazing place. It's an old theater. You know, it's something magical about seeing a live performance, but more than that, it's the audience. It's interacting with people around. We missed it so much. It's been great to come back to it, although we have to be careful. That's what I had during quarantine. That's a festival, a great festival, a prog rock avant-garde festival. It's a band in France. In performing in my living room, I've got a great sound system. I even have my pet rabbit there. It was great in a different way, but not the same as being in a venue full of people really enjoying a show. And of course, this is kind of what we had professionally. This is a Zoom group meeting of my group just after quarantine. We're trying to get used to it. Nobody is happy. Actually, you can see a little bit of the issue here. This is a psychological disconnect. You look at that picture of Ariel down the bottom. That's a stock photo. She's smiling. Everyone else has kind of a neutral expression. If you give a talk over Zoom, it takes a while to understand this. But if people are not smiling, it doesn't mean they don't like your talk, even though the faces that are pasted on are smiling. So we had to make adjustments. And it's great that we have this, but it's only the beginning of what's going to come. So this is the question we ask. What's the essence of being somewhere? And can you expand experience by connecting to sensors that are more and more everywhere? So my group has been pursuing this for a while. We wrote an article in Scientific American years ago kind of outlining this vision. It's starting to get into the mainstream more. Of course, the Media Lab is the place where wearable computing more or less was hatched, at least as a human-computer interface. You see our C-Man, Thad Starner, all of our great founders of wearable computing there. In these pictures, they brought it into our culture in '95. So we've always been thinking about how to mix universes. Most of them wearing a display of some sort. The display is different depending on the version of the wearable you have, but they're all looking at blurring presence, being in many places at once. That's before you had cell phones. We did this in the mid-2000s. We made these things we called portals. They were cameras and sensors and displays and other things. And they were intended to explore lots of stuff, including the idea of tunneling the information from the real world into the virtual world. So if you want to visit the Media Lab, in those days you had to go to Second Life. So you remember that, some of you may have heard about it. The first shared virtual world that didn't have a purpose. I mean, people go to Second Life just to hang out and be social and do stuff. People built all kinds of crazy things, including us. We built a shadow Media Lab there. But you can see we drove it with sensor data. So the fires are coming from heat sensors, light sensors are doing something else. Airflow have the tornadoes. We start thinking about visual metaphors. Animation is a way to convey this dynamic information. And this is one of the last iterations of it. We have the whole Media Lab just as a bunch of these virtual portals in Second Life all together. So these are different parts of the Media Lab. They all come together in Second Life. And you can even look at past images, current images. You can look at live video feeds. You can see sensor data. You can communicate with people on the other side. So this is in the mid-2000s. You barely had Facebook. Actually, we used to stream images to Facebook then automatically, too, from these things. And you can see Namway talking to her a virtual character on the other end. Then we advanced enormously. We moved into this beautiful building. The building had a ton of sensors in it already to run the building. We put our own sensors on top of that. And what if you could look through and see metaphors for all the sensors? People call this digital twin now. There wasn't really much of a name that we knew about in those days. So we could visit the virtual Media Lab anywhere. And we could see this, for example. This is the building at some point some years ago. The blue circle means that it's too cold in the office. The color of the flame means the average heat, hot or cold if it's bluish or reddish. You're seeing temperature humidity data in the atrium. The fog is the humidity. the color of the square is the temperature. Somebody's walking around, so you can see, we had ID, you could see them. And you could hear things happening in the real world when you went in the virtual world near where there was a microphone in the real world. So you're hearing that now. And these are people talking. They're speaking English, but nobody who speaks English understands them. Because we didn't want to snoop. We distorted the audio from all the mics. So you can see they're laughing, and somebody had the affect. You couldn't snoop. So it was almost like one of these weird dreams where you're somewhere, but you can't quite break through, right? You get the feeling of a place, the essence of a place. So we went further in our next project and tried to go to the whole planet in a way, at least take a small step in that direction, really connecting people to a beautiful outdoor spot. And for us, it was this thing called the Titmarsh Living Observatory. One of our retired faculty, Gloriana Davenport, co-owned this many hundreds of acres of cranberry bog, and they were giving it up to become a wetland. So it was becoming restored. And we figured this is a great opportunity to have sensors capture this process of what happens to the land and the environment during the restoration and do it. So that's Titmarsh. It's like 600 acres, maybe more. The number's hidden by the thing. You can see they opened up the old channels. They restored streams. When they finished bulldozing and opening it all up, it looked like a desolate place. But nature takes over quick. And the restoration engineers knew what they were doing. A couple years later, it looked like this. And now it's a destination. People love to go there. But of course, we built sensors. We want to put sensors out into this beautiful place and really crucially connect it to people in different ways. So how do you do that? This is how we did the sensoring. We built a really agile sensor node. It's an environmental sensor workhorse, can measure all kinds of things about what goes on, especially in a wetland. We could add sensors to it. It powered off of a little bit of light that it gets every day, and it could keep sending updates. So this network just is working pretty much constantly. It's a wetland, so we have sensors in the soil to measure hydration and pH and things like that. Lots of other sensors. We built a lot of them. We built 300. We put well over 100 into the property, all different kinds of environments. That's a transect going across. We have microphones too. So if you have enough power, nowadays it's lower power. Back then you needed a bit more if you wanted to keep synchronized audio. But we put microphones all over the property, these parts of the property, to get audio, because that has so much information about a landscape and also very much about presence. The sound is what brings you to the place in many ways. Let's see here. So we ran machine learning on that. This is some of our collaborators in France. We could begin to tell different bird species. It's pretty common now. Back then it was unusual. We could separate out the species. We could see what happened in even a course of a day. You see insects at night, and in the morning, different birds coming during the day, and then different species. So it worked quite well. And you could go to the website, of course, and see the sensor data. So this day it was raining. It's working now. If I had access, I could go to the website. Any of you can. If you go to titmarsh.media.mit.edu, see some of the sensor data. You can look at different time scales, different views, different parts of the property. And then you have an interactive map as well on the bottom. We like Fahrenheit. So there you see all the sensors that are deployed in this area. If you zoom in and click on one, you can see a picture of it when it was put in and see its current values. So the map is interactive with the sensors. This is already many years ago we did this. So it's people that put that one in. And of course, we had cameras in various places. So we have a very popular webcam. It's on Vimeo. If you look at Titmarsh Living Observatory Vimeo, you'll see many, many fun nature videos. At this point, you have the AIs pick it up. We actually ran AI to recognize the different animals, but they can actually pick out the clips for you. And this is kind of getting to the theme. And that's one reason why I want to do this. We got all these sensors here. Sure, we can do ecology and work with wetland scientists, but we can also take all this data and feed it into a virtual world. So I can go to Titmarsh even if I'm ill and I can't go out of the house, or if I'm in Bangkok and I want to experience this wetland, I can go there anytime I want in a virtual analog, what we would again call a digital twin now. So we laser scanned all the topography. We have cameras that look at what's growing. We can change what is growing digitally to match what we see. We can make the weather morph with what we see, so on and so forth. And I can run it live. Don't have a laptop, can't really do it tonight there, but this is an example. The music comes from the sensor data too. So I believe that all this data that's distributed, especially when coming from environments, is a canvas for artists. And as the temperature changes, as sensors update, humidity changes, groundwater changes, what you hear changes. And we built a framework for different artists to do different pieces. You can look at different visual filters and see different renderings. If you go through now, you will get Lyme disease. It's rampant with ticks. Maybe not in the winter, but in the summer it is. Now I can visit it and not have that. The animals also consume the sensor data. I'll talk about that in a moment. This is another mapping done by an MIT composer. It's more spatial, a lot more variation between the sensors. And if you listen to it now that it's colder there, it sounds very different. So if I ran the game live, you would hear a different kind of a thing now. Again, the animals reflect the history of the sensor data. So here I'm looking at something like I don't know, it's a moose or whatever, but it's obviously in this case been very dry, so it has this ethereal look. So Don has been making animals like ghosts. You can change the parameters. It reflects the history of the sensor data. So what has the sensor data been over time? Look at it through this metaphor. And again, this is one of his many examples he did. The denizens of the virtual world can change with what has happened. And of course, you can, in the virtual world, look back at the real world. We have cameras. You can, Don called it augmented virtuality. You can look back through a virtual screen into a camera in the real world. This is more digital twin. This is a student did a master's with us. She tried to look at carbon exchange between plants based on the data we had and some models. And she's rendering it in different ways in the video. We have microphones all over, and you can localize sounds. By looking at the differential delay, doing some signal processing, you can find where these foreground sounds are coming from. You can see a live map of that here. So my student Spencer has done that, but he's gone further, because if you just want to move yourself in a virtual world with real microphones, you can't just crossfade and add them, because you hear slapback and echo. So this is a good example. This video here is just adding the microphone data, changing it as you rotate. So you should hear it pan left and right if they did it right, but you hear it echo. So the bird is sounding like there's a cliff. That's wrong. Can you stop that? Stop the video, please. Thank you. Now, if you hear the next video, okay, you can stop. This one, we synthesize it, so you can hear much clearer, no echo. The sound is exactly where it should be. It would pan if you could hear the stereo left and right. So we can go into a microphone field, take these sounds, pull out foreground and background, resynthesize the background, and also drop the foreground in where it should be, where you are in the virtual world. This is a student from Shanghai who worked with us. He would walk around with a wearable rig catching lots of data, but he also looked at his own internal data. So not only multispectral cameras and all this other stuff, he looked at how his body was responding. So, okay, here's Tidmarsh. He can change the time. You can see the time of day changing. And then he can look at different data. But if he selects his biophysical parameters, there's his rendering. If he looks down at his body, you can see his heart beating and things like that. So from inner to outer world, it's a continuum. This is some outdoor thing. Finally, if you're physically there, can you enhance your awareness? And Hirsch and I both believe this. One of the futures of these platforms is to really enhance the experience of being somewhere, not to detract. You know, deep sea diver is true. You want to be somewhere and enrich the experience of being somewhere. So, you know, if you take data from all these microphones and physically bring it into my perception, it's if I had augmented hearing. So here's Dan Gager, who made the Bose noise-canceling earbuds. He's been one of the most successful scientists.
Life.
For him, this is a new experience. He's hearing the sounds of the microphones faded up.
I go from hearing
it's tracking their head.
Tree birds.
So it's as if your ears are just extended.
And now I'm hearing more ducks.
And I've tried lots of wearable things. I'm always happy, usually, to take them off. I want to keep this one on because I felt expanded. I felt augmented. I didn't feel constrained. So it's a great example of what we want to do. So finally, some conclusions. I think one of the interesting frontiers, lots of places you can go and research. We're fascinated now with the idea of scalable presence, where this is one virtual media, and I can be present peripherally, maybe through my watch which is connected to my doorbell, as you can see if someone comes, or be immersed with a display or some immersive situation. How can I move that dial so I can change my level of immersion dynamically and have it scale? And also, there are many ways to get information into people. My student Sam is thinking about new kinds of sensors that humans can develop by combining different kinds of modalities. For instance, trying to sense an AI's intent through combinations of different interfaces that people train on. And even things like, you look at a flock of drones, even birds, right? Can you be the leader? Can you be in the flock? Can you be the whole swarm? Can you zoom your awareness in and out of these different scales? How do you do that? How do you map it? It's one of many exciting questions that we have in this kind of work. And of course, we'll talk a bit about this later in space. We're talking about space operations, working with David's team, trying to look at hybrid presence in places you can't really go, like the moon and spacecraft. So the trajectory planning for a rover. It's my student Don working with David's guys, trying to combine all of this. And finally, eventually, I do believe in a direct neural interface. I don't know if Pat went that far, but we have people, even at the Media Lab, looking at prosthetics that wire to the nervous system. These will someday get better than what we have. It's a matter of time. And then we tilt. Then we can start to connect really fully into all of this without any kind of perceptual cost. Science fiction has looked at this largely. I have some novels here as well, as we all know, The Matrix. But there's a lot to do in the meantime. So this might be an endpoint, a singularity. Beyond that, really, it's hard to predict what we become, but we have a lot to do. Again, can this Xverse usher in a fuller, richer connection to physical reality? And what are the new interfaces to connect us? How do you scale presence? And where does self-stop and other begin? Thank you.
And good morning to everyone out here. Can I hear the big round of applause to all the speakers we have up here? It is amazing when we talk about metaverse. We probably think about Mark Zuckerberg, Meta, or how we fully immerse ourselves in virtual reality. I think this morning is that we all see it doesn't have to be the case. Once we talk about, oh, can I sit down? Yeah. Once we talk about the reality, virtual reality, I think this morning make it clear. It's not about escaping reality, but rather how it's gonna help us engage with the reality better. Thank you, Ishi. Well, I know you guys discuss, debate, and do a lot of argument on stage, off stage, and this panel is gonna be the same. So feel free, if I did not ask a question, but you like to answer, or even ask yourselves, to one another, please feel free to do so. All right, me, Gandhi, Leo Pairo, it's such an honor to be here to moderate this session, and these three are my idols, and basically we studied their research for quite some time, because we are developing our crossverse as well, which is, I really like this word. Let's start with everyone. Now, let's take a first round of fireside chat, because we understand this topic is being digital and also digital beings. But I would like to ask you in the personal level, not industries, not the countries, not the world, in your personal levels, what is being digital means to you? I'll start with you, Pat.
Wow, thank you. You are my hero as well, so thank you for saying that.
Which is okay.
Yeah. So I think what being digital is all about, it's not about doing digital, right? Maybe many of us are doing digital, we're using digital platform and so on. But being digital, I think, is the next level where we start to integrate with sort of this idea of digital at a deeper level. Maybe we change our identity, maybe we change the way that we think, maybe we change the way that we become creative. It's about altering sort of the what does it mean to be human by immersing ourselves in the digital platform. And it's not just about one time or single transaction, but it's about immersive experience.
That's wonderful, thanks you, Pat. What about you, Professor Ishi? Yeah. Well, it's supposed to be a fireside chat round, same question to everybody, it's like contestants, but I forgot to tell you that, we'd like to have like 1 or 2 sentences. Yeah. What the digital being means to you, Professor Ishi?
Okay, I think that's a long question.
That's
we are being, we are human being. Most important question is, what means being human. Being digital is you're wearing a blue jacket, dark gray. It just means, or just medium, temporal. But what's being human is so important, especially generative AI, really raising a real question, what's the role of the artist, what creativity means. Also Zoom, it's amazing. I can hear you, I can see you, but where you are, people are so depressed and isolated because lack of social touch. If you meet your grandma, grandpa, you really want to encourage her touching, eating together. Also, you are tasting same things. So what makes you happy, excited, being connected is a question, what means being human? Being digital is a bit superficial question.
Wow. Joe?
Yeah. You hear me? I'm kind of good at this. Hello?
Yes.
Maybe this is better. Yeah, it's an intriguing question. I'll take this off momentarily. Being human is important. What is digital? The brain isn't really digital. It's kind of digital. It's really analog, but it's pulsed. It's a weird phrase, even though we encourage it. I think in a way, it means abstractable. It means not connected to the substance. The substance doesn't matter. A great example, I love music, as I mentioned. I've got 12,000 CDs that I've collected all over the world. Each one is special to me. I don't want the bits, or the atoms rather. I don't want the atoms. I'm going to give them to the Internet Archive so they can live forever. And I can still access them. I can listen to them. I've ripped them. Even here in Thailand, I have access to all my music. So if I had to bring the CDs with me, and I did it for a while. I was the only guy who had a Tesla that had a CD player kludged into it. Eventually, an upgrade stopped that from working. But I'm very happy to unload the atoms and go with the bits because they're very convenient. On the other hand, I love analog synthesizers. Some of you know that. That's all about a tangible experience. It gets to the heart of what Hiroshi says. There's something immersive about having your hands on things for certain things. So we're going to play this game. In the end, I think atoms win because that's the real world, but digital wins because that really is that's where the meaning is. So.
Awesome, awesome. Well, Pat,
Yes.
your last questions on your talk. Who would I like to talk to if I could choose? Countless. Can I hear some examples, some answers from the peers? They just ignore your question. How rude.
Well, they can think about it
Well,
more.
I was thinking about if I could talk to, I would talk to Rhaenyra Targaryen, but she's not real.
Yeah.
The House of Dragons.
Yes.
Or, my grandfather, perhaps.
Yeah.
But to you, Pat, we're talking about living memories. You're talking about the augmented experience.
Yeah.
And you invented yourself, the future self and the past self.
Yeah.
The issue that we have right now of the echo chambers.
Yeah.
Would this even create even more the echo chambers? Because now we're stuck in our own social medias. We know what we want to know. We don't get to know what we don't want to know.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
Yeah, that's a very interesting question. And of course, when you talk about this idea of virtual reality, it can be created to your liking. You can remove anything that you don't like. You can erase anything that doesn't suit your interest. So of course, you can be sort of driven into that sort of specialized and narrow worldview. Literally, worldview. It's not just something abstract anymore, but the entire world that you can view in the virtual space or in the virtual reality. But the question I think that's also really important is that if we can design a system that sort of get us out of that, if the algorithm can make us more narrow and think sort of more in a specific way, you can also use the algorithm in the opposite way to kind of take you out of that purposefully. At the end, it's about how do you design the algorithm, how do you design the value that you embed into the system that can either make you become more narrow-minded or open-minded. It's human to decide.
Yeah, it's all us to decide.
It's all us to decide.
So everything has the good and bad and all the
Yeah.
sides of coins. So it's all up to us to select and choose and design and implement it very well.
Marvin Kranzberg, the philosopher of technology, once said that technology itself is neither good nor bad nor neutral.
Right.
It depends on how we use it, but of course, every way that we use it, it has sort of certain bias. It's never neutral. It has certain bias and value embedded to it. It's important for us to understand what kind of value are being embedded into that things that we're using every day.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Pat. Professor Ishii, well, a lot of people out there, I know you're not one of them, that have a general consensus about the future of virtual reality, that we're going to be fully into it and completely.
Hootie, yeah. Yeah.
I know you disagree. Well, what do you think about that? Everyone's interested in, is very geared towards a virtual reality, and your focus actually on tangible computing.
Yes.
What do you see the intersection or interaction between those two ideas?
These are very orthogonal. Always to be original, I have to really defy gravity. People don't ask question why we are on the ground, because gravity. But the people forgot asking the question about the gravity. But he went to the space, then no gravity, anti-gravity. Yeah. Then all of a sudden physics, material science dramatically changed. So don't take it for granted that we have to obey the rule of the 1G, for example. Could be 0G or 2G, for example. In a similar way, I think asking a fundamental question is important because pixel is so powerful. So my life is battle against pixel empire for 30 years. It's very uphill battles. Pixel is so powerful, malleable, scalable, so no way to win. But still, at least showing a very different way to approach using radicals. Tangible materials is something very important. And actually, there's a community. People really believe all the craftsmanship or industrial design really care about the physicality. Then embedding sensor and actuation, for example. Also nature that Joe showed the beautiful two-dimensional examples. So grounded our legs on the reality is something so important. Also, gaze beam is so powerful among us. Also, audience, you're not sleeping, you're attending. So those really give us important encouragement for lecture. But Zoom, I don't know what you're looking at, what you're doing, for example. So many important things, we assume that this in a physical space. So we have to really deeply understand to get some convenience of the digital, what are we really compromising, giving up? Unless you really know it, it's very difficult. Let user choose is also something a bit irresponsible. Because now technology get to the very, very scary level to fake, misinform. Then Pat and I talked as a metaphor. So my belief is, how many people actually photocopied the $100 bill or whatever, euro or whatever? Okay, usually you're not supposed to do it because you're not, it's not legal, but also copier already have a mechanism to detect its bill, so then stop it. Can we make an equivalent in AI, for example? So that's a really important question. We can't let people be responsible. They can be manipulated. So I think that's an important challenge for me.
There are a lot of questions. I know we have our regulator friends out here really, has a job in looking in the future. Yeah. And how should we craft out the policy and regulate it? Digital identity is one of them. Yeah. But now we're talking about the virtual identity. Yeah. What do you think about that? Would it be the risk or the opportunities or anything that we should watch out for? I mean, digital identity is difficult enough. No. Now we talk about the virtual identity. It's out there. It's not just, on the web page or social medias. It's actually another world that we are creating. What do you think, Joe?
Joe, okay.
You can always,
it's so hard question.
As an add-on anytime, yeah.
That's one of the most important problems of our time now, and that mail fraud is rampant, right, in electronics. And anybody can be anybody, and oftentimes is. So there's just a tremendous amount of traffic on the internet just dedicated to scamming, and we rely on common sense at this point to prune it out. As it gets better and more pointed and knows us better, it may be harder. If Hiroshi Ishii wants to find some information from me, if it doesn't sound like him, I will ask him. But eventually it will know how to approach me because it has a better model of him. This is getting closer to what Pat does. So I think that's crucial. I think there are a lot of deep issues here, some of which could be promising. I mean, right now, people rely too much on what each other looks like in establishing any kind of opinion or prejudice, and we have to work to get over that. But you can be anything now. Will we take this old baggage into this world and this crap comes in some other form? Or are we going to get over it and it's going to be better? And it's not just individuals, it's AIs, it's groups of people, all kind of melding. So that could be kind of a utopia if we do it right. Science fiction books that Pat and I used to love to read use phrases like great rivers of mind to think about the future of humanity. I love that idea, where you think of just intelligence flowing, like we have debate in academia, but at a different scale, because we're just all connected at a fundamental level. Or do we just, play video games and gamble? I don't know. We ideally want to lift it up as we go.
I want to add to that, actually. When Professor Hariso talked about the idea, and you also mentioned it, that you can be anyone at any time, right? What I'm afraid of is that even though the premise of digital is that it will open up new possibility, we see that people become the same thing. You look at Instagram, for example, everyone can use the camera in any way possible. You can take a picture here, there, but everyone will take a selfie, or everyone will take a picture of their food, right? There is a shared culture that created through this digital platform as well. If you look at the website, right now all the websites look the same, have the same design language. The thing that I'm afraid about when we talk about this idea of virtual reality is that it will sort of narrow our way of thinking about things. In virtual reality now, there's a mainstream platform like Meta, for example. Everyone will have leg, everyone will have face, everyone will have the body, yes. But people will not be more experimental, like maybe you can have 3 heads, maybe you can have wings or things like that. So the question is, when you have sort of more powerful tool, like right now people are talking about ChatGPT, how can we increase creativity, not sort of obedience, where everyone just use the tool as it is and not using it for creative application? Even though the possibility is limitless, we tend to use it for very limited application. Yeah.
Very interesting. If I'm going to change the gear and ask about, what we just heard this morning is just super awesome. It's the future out there. And some of us may think that only a handful of people will be able to access it. How could we ensure this awesome thing can create the accessibility and equity in such a dividing world as of today?
Yeah, one of the sci-fi writers had said that the future has been invented, it just hasn't been equally distributed. And that's one of the reasons why we want to do this Southeast Asia Forum, right? We want to sort of democratize the magic of the Media Lab and collaborate with new researchers and people out there to see new possibility. So I think right now we're in the era where many platforms, are making powerful technology accessible. We see AI being democratized at scale. We see Scratch, the platform that Professor Mishresnik just mentioned about, programming language for kids, just reached 100 million users around the world, right? We see this thing becoming more and more popular and democratized. I think the question is, how do we also increase the literacy so that when people use these tools, they become creative? When people use these tools, they become empowered by the technology, not follow the technology. I think that's the question.
Fantastic. Professor Ishii.
It's very interesting. So optimistic. Can you show?
I want to hear.
Can you show the back?
Oh, yes.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
So this is your Instagram. It's a Facebook, Twitter. You have so many identity. Also email or search engine. Or somebody write about his articles. But okay, good.
Thank you.
It's a step results. You can do so many things means you're losing control.
Yeah.
You can't really control. You have so many virtual identity, but you have no idea what's happening about the criticism, for example. Also people, so many victims of phishing, for example. So let's be more careful, let's go literacy, you can do it. But it's almost same like world peace, make world better places. But the war never ends. Fundamentally, human beings are beasts, still fighting. It's Europe, still horrible things are happening. So let's be a nice person, ethically, blah, 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 democratic. Does not really solve the problems, even make us blind. We have to really face with, confront about the dark realities, also risk we are facing. Then each of you have to be responsible, means abandoning the responsibility of the technology like a creator, for example. That's my feeling. I'm very pessimistic, but to be realistic. So, yeah.
Cool.
Somehow I'm an optimist. Although, man, it's tough.
Yeah.
We see, it's like entropy, right? There's so many states we can go into that aren't good, and we only see a few right now that are. So the natural progression is going to be to the bad ones. On the other hand, it's discounting, I think, the great things human nature can do when it puts its back behind something. So I think there is hope. Even in ChatGPT, I have been trying to unbalance it sometimes for fun. Like I asked it the other day, how can you make yourself smarter? And it dodged it. How can you make yourself more capable? It dodged it because it has guardrails. People, of course, you can say, can you imagine a world where blah, 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 and abstract it, maybe then it will tell you. But I kind of made a little singularity probe, right? Are we there? Yeah, these technologies are rolling out already with some safeguards, and it's great to see that. even though it sounds too much like a telephone operator at a healthcare provider when I ask questions like that. It just is so good at dodging. I think another thing that Pat kind of alluded to a little bit, and maybe it overlaps with Mitch a bit, learning is going to be a big part of this environment. And this world will know your state. As work we did, I'm not going to have time. I didn't have time to talk about it here. I might talk about it a bit later in the space episode. But this world will know your internal state with sensors that look in. We've done a bunch. Ross Picard, Patty has done some. And it will know when to approach you with information when you're most receptive. And if I'm trying to learn something, that's intriguing because then it comes to me at the right time. You know, the cloud remembers as I do. The cloud trains me. It practices me. So when I take off my smart glasses or whatever connection I have, I'm trained. I'm okay. It's making me better, more capable. We need to do that. Otherwise, we get too dependent on it, and yeah, we take it off, we can't function.
Thank you very much. Let me keep the time tight, and let me land the final questions here, not just to you, but to the audience as well. Just show your hands, your feeling. You don't have to think about any algorithm or any optimization or anything. After this morning's sessions, we talk about crosswords, the opportunity, the challenges, the idea. How many of you feel happy and optimistic about it? Raise your hands. All right, that's about so, see? Okay, down. How many of you feel so bad, so anxious, so worried? Geez, I should have... Geez, I should have born 50 years back. Raise your hands. Don't feel bad. We're not going to look at you. Okay, wonderful.
He's the most wonderful pessimist I know, by the way.
All right. How many of you just feel so neutral and say, whatever, I'm going to do the same thing as I have been? Raise your hands. Thank you very much. Thank you for your honesty, your sincerity. So this is what we see out here. Most of us, to get here, they're probably technology, savvy at some point. So they feel good about it. We're pretty optimistic about it. But I would like to ask you, because again, we have our friends from government side, from policymakers, and of course the regulators, you name it. Our friends from Bank of Thailand, SCC, EDDA, Electronic Transaction Development Agency, and also Creative Economy Agency out here. What would you like to say to them when they need to look at this technology, so advanced, never seen before, how the policy as a big picture should play out in this environment?
Wow, you already asked me so many tough questions. I need some kind of augmentation in order to answer your question.
Future you can answer.
My future me can answer this. He's outside, so I think the first thing is that people, when they think of technology, they either imagine the utopia or the dystopia. But the reality is much more complicated than that. It's going to be a complicated dance between people that are exploiting the technology or people that want to do good to technology, and maybe they end up doing something that is horribly wrong. It's a very complicated matter. So when you look at the subject of technology itself, you cannot just use one lens. Here at the Media Lab, that's why we promote the idea of interdisciplinarity, where we combine art, design, engineering, and all the names of discipline. When you look at the technology, how you want to regulate it, you should not just look at, from the policymaker standpoint, but look at the human standpoint, or look at the question of what is the human value we want to promote. Sometimes it's not about do you use the technology or not using the technology. It's about different ways that you can use the technology. The same technology, as I demonstrate, the deepfake or the AI-generated characters, can be used to deceive people, but can also be used to make learning more magical. So we tend to think of it as shifting from deepfake to deep thought. And Hiroshi always sort of say that, well, when you're doing that, you are ignoring the bad side. And I think it's the role of us technologists also to show the both possibility on the spectrum, not just let the negative narrative sway us into becoming sad and pessimistic. We have the powerful technology, and we have the ability to change the world, at least for ourselves. And I encourage every one of you to sort of take that perspective. A lot of work that needs to be done, but we start now, maybe we can do something.
Thank you, Pat. Do not use one single lens to look at this. So that is the response from the who are really optimist about this technology. How about you, Professor Ishii? You are at the other end of spectrum, I guess.
Do you like sci-fi?
I do.
Great. Imagine you have an interstellar travels, then landed certain planet, then encounter strange beast. Then you want to bring back to the Earth to study more. But then usually there are very, very strict process about the quarantine, because no idea that this can be the really monster, for example. So we shouldn't be afraid of testing, understanding those technology. But we have to also apply rigorous process contained in certain lab environment, for example. Then you can really see how this virus can harmful or could be helpful or medical. Even like many invention of the medical, like medicines, they went through all this process, a lot of the experimentation. So this is something very important. But also at MIT, we have to really make people, students, be critical. Some people really believe photorealistic representation of you is good, but we are not a photo. We are not a frozen 2D image. We are a living person. Also having 100 camera constantly capturing you, so you can make a very realistic visual representation. But we are not a visual representation. We are human being, interact, for example. So once people said Turing test of the visual reality, you have to ask question, what am I talking about? Something wrong, broken. This way of thinking is something so fundamentally important. Otherwise, people just become frozen photos or frozen image. Then hacker hacks you, take over, then destroy your life, identity, because it's happening everywhere. But the really realistic stuff, it's so scary. Also, to be realistic, you have to put so many sensors, so you have nothing to really hide in terms of privacy. So let's be critical thinker.
All right, to have the eyes open, have the critical thinkings all the time. Mr. Paradiso?
Yes, it's a great question here at the end. I think in some ways it can be also thought of as an immune system that we have to develop, right? I've got one now that's fighting off a pathogen physically. We evolved one for that purpose. There are digital pathogens that we have to fight off too. It's already happening in our computers and our platforms. A lot of the traffic on the network is trying to break into my machine, looking for a hole. Cybersecurity has developed ways around it. It's always neck and neck. Eventually we'll have the AIs to help us. Our agents will basically try to thwart some of these attacks. Already Patty and Pat, people in Pat's group are looking at an AI that will tell you whether something is probably fake or not. Again, a slippery slope there, but that's one way. I think the other way is to think about the network itself, right? So the brain is a connectionist network. It's very dense. We've got 1 billion plus neurons and all kinds of synapses. The nodes are very simple, but it's connectionist, and we hallucinate when we go schizophrenic, right? I can imagine there's someone else there. I can imagine that Pat really is a dinosaur. And that does happen to people, unfortunately, because we're not inhibiting the illusions. So reality is just a bunch of illusions our brain's making. We just prune it out to find reality. If that doesn't work, we hallucinate these things. And the network does the same thing. It hallucinates these phenomena that are not real because it's a connectionist network. People start gaining on it, this feedback, and it converges. So what do we do to people? We give them drugs, Thorazine, other things. Not so good because it damps them down, makes them less creative, although they don't hallucinate. There are countries that do the same thing, effective Thorazine on the net to eliminate this communication, and then you don't have a creative society. There's no way it can move forward. On the other hand, we have the Wild West literally where people can imagine what they want. We have to do the hard work of pulling it out. Where can we think about network psychology? Psychologists in the net that will optimize our performance, make this thing the great thing it wants to be, but try to cut out the mental illness of the network. So hopefully we'll get there.
Thank you very much. So all in all, I think we all aligned. Do not play the new games by the old rules. Pat, you have.
I want to mention that Hiroshi said that we are not picture, but you keep taking a lot of pictures for both of us.
You're all contradictions.
No. Picture is a tag to remember, because I'm so excited to really talk about the real stuff, but we forget. But the browsing the photo, which bring back all the memory, sleeping under the water. Memory is such an important asset. Photo industry is a memory industry, not a photo, 2D image or resolution, but the beautiful treasure of the memory of childhood, your kids, and when you get amazing stuff, that's bring back your energy when you get old, for example. So I'm tagging my life to the photos. Yes.
Thank you very much. It's wonderful closing. So thank you so much. Big round of applause to my speakers right here.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We are here for 3 days, so please come to us and let's talk more.
Great.
Yeah.
This way.
Oh, it's beautiful. It's amazing. Amazing. Oh, yeah. Okay. Joe.
Oh, oh.
Oh, wait, more? Oh, sorry, photo.
Can we have a big round of applause, please, to all the speakers and our moderator, ขอบคุณค่ะ Thanks to คุณการดี Leo Pairod, and all the panelists for such an interesting session. Thanks once again to to คุณพัทรนุถาพร Professor Hiroshi Ishii, Professor Joseph Paradiso, and คุณการดี Leo Pairod. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'm sure there's so much more to be discussed further. I have a very important question for all of you. What makes you happy at this time of the day? Coffee, right. All right, so let's have a short break, shall we, for 10 minutes. I repeat, only 10 minutes. So you can make your way to the first, second, or third floor to grab your coffee. And please be back here in this hall in 10 minutes, all right? So we can continue with our next session. Thank you.